And we only got to go to Grandpa and Grandma's maybe 3 or 4 times a year. And so Lynn said I should take this turban off and get fixed up, Lynn, right before we do a video. And I said, "This is me." You know.
Yeah. I had my eyes checked earlier today.
Did you?
Just a couple hours ago. And one of the technicians called me Marty, so.
Oh.
I'm also Marty.
Oh.
I didn't correct him. He just, if he wants to call me Marty.
Yeah. Wow. Where did we leave off yesterday, Rick?
We were talking about when you were 17 and.
Got rid of the braces and crutches and everything.
Yeah.
And then let's see, Rod called me to go to the prom with him. And I did not know Rodney Cross from no one. I'd never met him before.
Hadn't you been saying that he was taking you back and forth to school or something?
Well, that's after this.
Just after this,
yeah.
Okay.
He asked me to go to the prom with him, and I wasn't sure I wanted to go. And he kept calling every day for about 3 weeks, and my dad was working out on Interstate 29. That's hard work, foreign construction. And he'd say, "Who's on that phone?" And I'd say, "Well, this guy named Rod again, you know." "Well, you know, get rid of him. Tell him to stop it." All he could think of was just an extra hour of sleep.
If he'd only known what a good guy Rod was, and how much help he'd get from him.
Yeah, he did. And Rod loved my mom and dad. He loved them. He loved my whole family. And so I finally said to my mom, I said, "Mom, I gotta get rid of this guy. Dad's getting angry. What do I tell him?" And she said, "You don't tell him no." She said, "Let's go get you a formal and let's have you go to the prom." And I'm thinking, prom? I didn't want to do that. I had not gotten out socially yet from the polio. You know, all the teenagers kind of avoided me because they thought they could catch polio from me.
Right.
But I come home from school one day, there was Mom dressed up, and she said, "We're going uptown, we're going to get you a formal today, and we're going to buy supper out, and we're going to celebrate." I said, "Mom, I really don't want to go." "Oh, well, I'm not even going to hear that. We've heard enough of that. You just prepare yourself, here we go." So we went, got a really pretty light blue formal, and then we stopped at a place called Maid-Rights and got Maid-Rights, like a Sloppy Joe hamburger. And so we got that hamburger and ate, and the prom was going to be in 3 days. And so Mom said, "Invite him down to the house and let's meet him before the prom." So I worked at that time. I had just gotten a job at F.W. Woolworth and would work like 2 hours after school every night. And so he came down to the house, got there before I got home from work. And Mom came in the room and she says, "Oh my gosh, he's 6'4". You're going to have a stepladder and a posy on his suit, and you're so little." And so I walked in, introduced myself, and we met for the first time, went to the prom, and we had a really good time. And then after the prom, we danced some at the prom, and I was really clumsy about dancing because of the polio. But he took me to a place called Club 64 afterwards to have like a steak after the prom and that, and then took me home, and we had a very nice time. And he said, "Well, can I see you again sometime?" And I said, "You know, call me later on, but please don't call me at night because my dad, he has to go to bed at 7 in order to be up by 3:30 in the morning. And so call me before that time." So the very next day he started calling and wanting to know, you know, "Would you like to go to a movie?" I hadn't been to a movie in my life. I didn't know what a movie was. "Would you like to go bowling?" I'd never been bowling in my life, so I didn't know what that was either. And I just was very hesitant with him. And about 3 weeks after he started calling, he asked me to go steady and to wear his ring, his graduation ring. And, you know, we never really went out and spent a lot of money on anything, but we'd go out and have one was maid rights. That was a popular thing in those days, and so I was in my junior year at high school. He came to all of my high school activities. Mom and Dad didn't, because Dad working and going to bed so early. And so about 2.5 years after we started dating, he didn't ask me to marry him. He didn't tell me. We never even talked about it. It was May 1st of 1956, I believe it was. He had his birthday, and he took me to his parents. They said they were having a birthday party. And when I got to the party, it was not a birthday party, it was an engagement party that I didn't know about.
Oh, wow.
And so he presented me a diamond ring. He presented me with a little box all wrapped up and everything, and he said, well, now that I've got my birthday gift, I got to tell you about a birthday gift. And I'm sitting there completely unaware of what's going on. He hands me the box, and he said, I want you to open that. And there, amidst all the fun of his family and everything, he said, will you marry me? And I thought, you didn't do this very well, I'm embarrassed. But I said, you know what, I think we can think about that. And so I accepted my engagement ring, and we were married in July 6th of 57 then. And that, so poor as church mice again. His family was not wealthy, my family was not wealthy. My family lived in Council Bluffs. Mom and Daddy lived in Council Bluffs at that time. They got Grandma off the farm because she just wanted to work herself to death, and her heart was bothering her and everything. So they rented the farm out for a couple of years and moved to Council Bluffs. And my dad took on a job with Akko Feed Company and done traveling in that. And then so it was quite an array of things that went on during that time, and Rod had accepted a job with a farmer out of Carson, Iowa, working for Art Clausen, and he got paid $33 a week. You think that's a lot of money. Try living on it once, you know. We were furnished the meat, the milk, and the eggs free of charge, in a big old country house that was huge and cold. We lasted there about 5 months, and when the winter wind started blowing in, the drapes would blow straight out from the windows. So we decided to move to town, both of us get jobs and find a little apartment. And that's what we did then to get started. And that worked out much better, you know, with it. But when Rod was working for a glass company, he was a route driver for a different glass company, and at that time they were starting to build the IVP plant in Denison. And my dad said, why don't you come up here and see about our job? It's got benefits, it's got insurance and everything. He went to work for $1.25 an hour, but we had insurance benefits and everything. Terry was 6 months old when we were located at Dow City, and he worked with IVP for, it was a lot of years. And finally got your dad too into IVP. And then Grandpa also had a job at IVP for a time.
And I worked at the Hyde Company when I got out of high school.
Yes, yes. And one time told a story about your dad was a repairman, you know, for the Denison Hyde Company. And he went in and turned all the switches off and everything, and would be going into these vats to fix these vats. There was a vat that was broken. While he's in the vat fixing it, somebody mistakenly turned that switch on again and rolled him around in that vat. Almost killed him. We always thought that that's what happened with the fungus in the lungs, why he had that. But thank God they got him out safely in that. But there were some hard times for us, you know, when they was all working at that. And Grandpa and Grandma had moved back to the farm in Dow City. Grandpa done some more farming for other neighbors as well as around. And combining, he bought a combine, and they were making good money during that time. So they enjoyed some years, good years together, you know, before all the grandchildren started coming around. And let's see, that Little Paula was born, and then Rick, and you guys lived over at Moorhead at that time. And I can't remember how Jerry and Tommy got back up to Minnesota. I think Grandpa Terrell and Grandma Terrell went with them.
Well, you mentioned that your dad was with ACO.
Yes.
Well, that's my dad took a job with ACO.
Yes, he did too. Yeah, yeah. Or is that what took him to?
I think so.
That up to North Dakota.
And then he decided he wanted a farm and opportunity to buy that farm in Holly.
So David was born while in 1957. We got married in July, and he was born that following October. He's going. How old would David be now? At 20, on the 26th.
61. He was a year older than I was.
He was a year older than you. Okay.
He was in. He was grade ahead of me.
Okay.
So 57 to.
He was born in 57.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
maybe
62.
62.
Yeah,
yes.
62 this year.
62.
Yeah.
Wow. And then, and they were up there yet when Bobby was born, I believe. And they came back when Bobby was maybe, let's see, Bobby was born in January, Tim was born in September. So, what would that have been, 62, 63?
Yeah, 62 is when
Yes.
Bobby was born.
And so, is that, let's see, no, they farmed over by, where was it when you were born, Rick?
When I was born,
Yeah.
they went over to Red Oak shortly after. I was
Yes,
born.
shortly after, but they were, when you were born, they were, was it
And then they moved
Mondale?
over to Dow City and the
Yeah,
place on
they
the
lived in
corner,
Dow City for a while,
and then it was up to Holly.
and then it was up to Holly, yeah. So there were several moves in there, you know, but meanwhile, Gordon and then Lee got married, and they come home, we were all together one Thanksgiving. I don't know if you were too young to remember that maybe.
What year was that?
That would be 1959. I was ready to go to the hospital with Terry.
I remember a lot of things
From the farm.
Third or fourth,
Yeah,
when I was 3 or 4.
yeah,
So I probably remember little bits of that.
there.
I remember a lot of things out on the farm, sitting on the
Yeah.
steps, eating the meals and
Yeah.
such, with all my cousins.
Oh, yeah, it was a grand old time. And yet we were as poor as church mice, you know. Nobody was wealthy. But nobody was wealthy in the world at that time either, you know.
Well, there are a
You
few
know what,
people-
we still had respect for our president then.
Yeah.
We still had grand,
Yeah, even
nobody
if you were
spoke bad.
Democratic or Republican, you
That's
still had
right.
respect.
You had respect. That we don't have today, and I hate that. But we saluted the flag. We stood for the flag and put our hands over our hearts. We knelt to God.
Allegiance.
That's right.
And prayed in school.
That's right. And we
Up
prayed
until
in school.
1962.
And we sang. I've got a school book of the songs that we sang in school that time, and it's amazing how many God-honoring songs we've sang.
Yeah, especially at Christmas time.
I
Especially
wouldn't have
Christmas.
known anything about prayer in school because that
Yeah.
was already in effect then.
Yeah. I remember kindergarten and first grade that the teacher would bow their head and would start the day with a little prayer.
Yes, yeah.
And
Yeah.
that all came out.
That all came out then, you know, and that, and
I grew up in most schools. We'd all stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance.
that's right.
There's very few schools that do that now.
I know. It makes my heart sad to think that what we were as a nation then and what we are now in this time is really,
And there'd be a big picture there of the current president of the United States.
that's
that
right.
We were told to respect him.
Tim, yes,
There's a
yeah,
lot of schools that refuse to put up a picture of a Republican.
that's right.
They're also liberal, but
And you know, our parents never talked anti-God or anti-president or anything in our presence.
yeah.
You know, it was a wonderful time at that time and that, so I was telling Paula, we took a drive out there here a couple months ago and the farm's all bulldozed down.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah.
And our little acreage, it's all bulldozed down. Is your guys' acreage still up there?
Yeah, some guys bought that.
Okay.
And the little garage that my dad had built up there, the
Yeah.
steel garage, they've added that. The thing is huge now.
Oh my gosh.
And so whoever has that must store a lot of equipment or do a lot of repairs
Wow.
or something. I've been tempted to go up there and knock on the door and introduce myself and
Mm-hmm.
said, I asked him, do you mind if I take a look at your house and see how it's changed?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
that'd be a
Yeah.
thing.
I should do that.
Yeah.
Let me know when you're going, I'll go too.
When you're closer, you can do that anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. But it was happy days,
Yeah.
on the farm. It was a lot of happiness to us, and Grandma Lorette died at that farm. Grandma Rosie died on that farm.
Yeah,
Grandpa died at Mamie's house. Is Mamie's house still in Dunlap?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Yep,
Um,
it looks a little different.
does it look different now? We haven't been up there for
They
a
haven't got it done, but he's in the process of putting new siding on it.
Oh, okay.
But he's not clear down yet.
Not
So
clear.
who was
Okay.
it now?
I think it's one of the shoemates or somebody.
So it just,
It's a young man and his family.
okay.
Wow.
Patty, Lois Ferguson's granddaughter, Gidget. You
Okay.
ever heard of Gidget?
Oh.
She's got a family. My mother used to take care of those.
Oh,
those girls
okay.
when they were young.
Okay.
That's surprising. Maybe my other grandparents, the Terrells, their house is still there and it's
Yes.
in fairly good shape right
Fairly good. And they've
Yeah.
repaired it all, haven't they?
Yeah.
Remodeled it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Who owns that now?
now. I don't know.
I haven't a clue who owns that.
Does the garden still go with that? Because Grandpa Otero had a big
There's
garden.
no garden or
Did the
anything.
Larrys
But-
sell it?
Yeah, they sold that quite a while ago.
Oh.
Because after Larry died, she moved up along the golf course.
Okay.
His junior
I remember
years.
going down there as a kid and there used to be a sand pit
Yes.
right
Mhm.
behind it and it was
Yeah.
kind of neat to
I used to
sit
fish
around,
down
throw
there.
rocks in the
Yeah.
water there.
You remember how Grandma Terrell done her laundry with Maytag washer out on the lawn?
Yeah.
And it would go all day long. She would wash out there on the, and never had to worry about cleanup or anything, it was
Yeah.
outside on that. I worked with your grandma as a gold corral, not golden corral, the
Slipper.
old slipper,
That's what
and she was the cook there,
Mhm. Right.
and I would help her make salads. We worked together on that. She was my favorite person to work
That's one
with.
thing I have in common. When I was in high school, I got a job there and I was in charge of the salad bar.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I see. I had that
Wow.
salad bar for years
Yeah.
with
When you were
Grandma.
just in high school?
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah, yeah. And have to
It
rack
hasn't
those
changed
baked
any. There's
potatoes.
still young men that take care of it.
Yeah.
There it is. Okay.
Because
Wow.
one of the boys in our church does it now.
I should go
Okay.
down there and tell them you have big shoes to fill.
Well, John and Eddie Heller did it too when they were
Uh-huh.
young.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's provided the jobs for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You
It
Who owns that now? Is it the Hellers?
Heffernan's.
Oh, Heffernan's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Brian and Paul.
Brian.
Okay.
She
So-
was a Krychek.
Oh, she was a Krychek.
Yep,
Okay.
that'd be, what Krychek would
we should
Ray,
Ray.
and Shirley Krychek.
So
Okay.
Larry's sister then?
that be?
Larry's sister?
Larry.
Larry Krychek.
Could be a cousin or something.
Wow.
He was a classmate of ours till 10th grade and his parents took him out of school to farm.
Oh.
Yeah, it'd be a cousin.
It'd be a cousin
that'd
to
be-
them.
That'd be, there was Ray, Donnie, and another boy.
Was it Larry?
No,
No.
he had a bunch of boys.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
they-
I used to
they
babysit for
farmed
Larry.
South, or west of Dunlap.
Okay.
And they always, my dad ran the grain elevator here in town. There'd be Cogdale's now. but
Okay.
Back then it was Egan's Grain. and
Oh, I
Feed
remember that. Uh-huh. Yeah.
And the Krychek boys would, they wouldn't start farming, they'd farm all night.
Oh.
Picking corn and
Oh
whatever.
my.
Well, they still do that now, but
Wow.
he'd expect to get in down there at the elevator, you know, after 10 o'clock at night.
Wow.
So my dad, he met my mom down at there was a bar on the northeast side of Dunlap. What was the name of it? The Safari Club.
So, oh, I remember
Yeah.
that. Mm-hmm.
And she'd meet him down there, and somebody would come in and say, Emmert, you better get up and get to work. The Krychek boys are down there.
My
So he had to go
word.
down there and
Oh,
unload corn or soybeans or whatever.
yeah.
Might have to fire up the dryer and
Yeah.
start drying corn.
You know, the thing I liked about Dunlap, everybody worked together. If there was somebody having a bad time,
Yeah.
they'd pull behind them and help them get out the crops.
It
and
hasn't
different
changed
things.
any.
Yeah,
They
it's
still do that.
still like that?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, see my birds out there? What kind of bird is that?
Oh,
Lynn's gonna put some bird seed out there. I've had cardinals, I've had blue jays, I've had those.
it's got a great
Yeah,
breast
what
and
is
black.
that? They're pretty. There's lots of them.
Oh, I had a,
It's like I got an
Name for it.
aquarium right outside my room.
back in Nebraska when I lived out there, there was a little bird
Looked like that.
that
Went up and down the tree?
Went up the tree that way.
Is that a
you know.
nuthatch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what
it
that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nuthatch.
I didn't know. There's black squirrels back there. There was a deer walking past there the other day.
Oh, that's gotta be awesome watching
That's
that.
awesome. It's like it's an aquarium, right? I got the best room in the
Boy,
whole house.
you should have seen the sunset
Wow.
last night. Did anybody
Oh,
see
it was beautiful.
Yes, it was.
It was beautiful.
We were driving back from Denison,
Mhm.
and the clouds there was sunlight below the clouds, you know,
Oh,
and the sun was hidden up in there,
oh,
but it was so bright right
Oh.
below that crowd. the
oh my
clouds.
goodness.
It's just beautiful.
Wow. They showed a little bit on the news.
And then when it came down and brightened things
Did you?
up,
Yeah.
and then it set, and there were these red clouds.
Oh.
It was so cool.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful.
Wow.
I
We've
can
had
see.
some beautiful sunsets.
They say the month of October is the best for
Yes.
sunsets.
Yeah, I've heard that too. We have a bench right outside our front entry, and we'd go sit out there and watch the sunset every night, you know, and we could just see the whole area lit up, you know, and that is beautiful. That it doesn't cost a thing,
Hmm.
you know.
That's right.
So, yeah, we love that. Lynn is into things like that, plants and sunsets and
How old
butterflies.
is Lynn?
Lynn is, let's see, I think he's only 69. I'm that much younger than he is. So 69. He's got his own cleaning services. He heads off to work, and I see him in the morning, maybe at 8:30.
What kind of services?
He cleans residential houses from top to bottom.
Really?
Does the whole thing for professional people. He's been doing this for about 20 years, and he's got customers that have been with him that long, and it's hard to get on his cleaning list, I know. I said, put me down in the schedule, would you? You know, he's wonderful at what he does. He's very thorough at
He's a
it.
hard worker.
He's a good hard worker, a very pleasant personality, you know. I was hoping maybe we'd get him to play some piano out here after a while. He's picking up his sister at the airport from Virginia, and they're going to have supper here. If you guys want to have supper here and then hear him play the piano, he bought the hymn book and stuff last night, but they love it when you play piano here. Oh man, they just love it. And so the other night when I played piano for a little while till my arms got tired, and then you came on, let's see, Friday was it?
Yes, yesterday.
Thursday, a lady came to sing at 2 o'clock with an auto harp and that. She said, Beverly, can you play piano to match my auto harp? And I said, oh yeah. So I went up there. I didn't have a book or anything with me, but I just recalled one song after another. And we just had a grand music festival out there in the dining room.
Too
and
bad I didn't
people all
record that.
around, huh?
Too bad I didn't record that.
I know you would have liked that, Rick. It was awesome, and of course now they know we can do that. When are you going to do that again? When you? I said, well, give me a rest for a few days, you know. So I haven't done that yet, but
Need you to come visit our church so we can play Stump the
That
Piano
together?
Player with you.
yeah. Oh, I'd love that.
We did that a couple of times when Gene Dahmer was playing the piano. for us.
Okay.
I know that was
We
a
couldn't
big
get her
highlight
stumped.
of Thanksgiving or Christmas, that you or Grandma would sit
Yeah.
there and play on the
Yeah.
piano.
And that was the
Yeah.
highlight of our Christmas at Grandpa and Grandma Lorette's.
Yeah.
They had 2 pianos in the parlor. They'd roll up the carpet, and their Grandpa Lorette was with the fiddle, and Grandma played the piano. So all the kids knew fiddle and piano, and they would get at that thing, and those floors, I'm telling you, they jumped up and down when the piano started.
How many kids did they have?
13 of their own, and then 2 died at 6 months old because of coughing. What do they call that? Whooping cough. And
Oh, that's a big
so
problem.
altogether 23, and it didn't make any difference if they belonged to the Lorette family. They still learned to play an instrument, you know.
You know, I don't have much contacts for any of the Lorette side
You don't have?
outside of Lorraine's kids.
Okay.
But through my Facebook posts, I have
Who is
friends
Jenny
that are-
Lorette?
What?
Who is Jenny Lorette?
I know she's on my Facebook because she got a thing from it, but David Lorette,
David Lorette is Uncle Bud was his daddy.
okay.
And Uncle Bud's buried
Anyway,
at
he's
Hancock
a
Cemetery.
musician as well.
He is?
And I have other friends that are musicians that play with him all the time.
Oh,
So
Wow.
I don't remember ever meeting David Lorette, but we're friends on Facebook, so I get
oh,
postings
I'd like to
from
get
him.
on Facebook with him. I love that boy.
Yeah.
There's David and Donnie and Dwight and Joyce. Joyce Lorette, this is Joyce's younger brother.
Wow.
That's who that is.
I'll have to send him a message on Facebook, letting him know
Yeah,
You're here.
yeah. Oh, I'd love to have a musical thing. It was always our custom, and that's where that got started. After the Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner, Grandpa would say, "Okay, everybody," and the kids never got in the parlor any other time. When they had the big real Christmas tree, and they had candles clamped to it, and so Grandpa would say, "Okay, we're going to have the opening of the Christmas tree." Oh, we got so excited. We'd all stand there in front of the door, and they opened up the parlor doors, and everybody go, "Woo!" because it was real live candles, but they only allowed them to burn for a minute because they were so apt to catch a
It
fire.
was dangerous as a
Yeah.
fire.
So they closed them all off. But then they get at the pianos, and that little house in Hancock, which still stands there, Rick, have you been by that?
Somebody pointed it out to me a long time ago, but
You
I
don't
don't
remember
remember which
it? I
house
wish
it
I
is.
could just draw a picture up for you. The kitchen, the dining room, the living room, all were in straight rows with arched doors through them.
we still have occasional get-togethers on Memorial Day for
Yep,
it.
Yeah, I would love to get to that. And it's usually cold and rainy on
Yeah.
Memorial Day.
Yes, man.
But they line up the tables. They were like 8-foot tables. They'd line them up from the kitchen clear through the living room, and that was all covered with food. There'd be 70, 80 people all together.
Oh my goodness.
And then we'd start in the music, and there was jigging. We was always so happy about your mama because she could do the Irish jig when Grandpa could play the Irish jig.
Wow.
And
I never saw my mother do an Irish jig.
you never did?
No.
It was cute. She was tiny, you know,
Uh-huh.
very delicate when they were first got together, and she done the Irish jig, you know, and she'd hold up her skirts as she done it. It was really cute. I wish I had a picture of that. I was thinking about that a while back.
I wish I had a video of it.
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice? And she had the red hair. She was Irish,
Right,
you know.
yeah.
But we would sing way into the night. One person would run out of a song, and the next one pick it up, and away we'd go, you know. And when we all settled down for the night, you can imagine the babies slept in cardboard boxes just to make room for them all.
Right.
And the rest of us all had quilt mats or something that Grandma had a rug machine, and she made rugs, and she'd lay those rugs out, and us kids would lay on those rugs to sleep at night. It was a house full, let me tell you.
Yeah, I bet it was.
It was a house full, but it was also a house of cheer and that. And of course, when Grandpa died, then they brought the casket into the living room. Instead of showing it at the funeral home, you had the casket viewing in your home for 3 days before the funeral. And you know, there was some sad times with it too. I remember I was 12 years old when Grandpa passed away, and I had never touched a dead person before. And Aunt Vi said, "Do you want to kiss him?" I was scared to kiss him on his forehead.
Yeah.
You know, I thought, I don't know what this stuff is they put in him, but I don't think I want it on my lips, you know.
Yeah.
But
It's probably
some really good people that if you had a problem, you know, they'd help you fix it just like that.
yeah.
And not many people like that nowadays, you know. But speaking about the Lorettes, I've got the number for the Lorette Funeral Home in Red Oak. And
Wow.
that was Grandpa David's brother Charles, his side of the family there. So I do want to contact them and see, you know, if they can have any stories for us. I'd like to know more about Grandpa, where he originated from. I think it was Wellington, Illinois. That's all that I know. So I'd like to know a little bit more about their family. His name was Charles Lorette, and that. But life has really been interesting. I've had a cup full. If the Lord calls me in the next 5 minutes, I'm ready to go. But it's been an interesting life. You know, I remember traveling down there in an old 1935 Ford to Grandpa and Grandma Lorette's. This was before polio days, so this might have been like 1950. And the tie rod on the car broke, and it ran off into a culvert just at a ditch. And Grandma was taking 4 dozen eggs down to Grandma, you know, to help with breakfasts and stuff. They were lined up in the back seat of that old car. Us kids were sitting in the back seat. We had broken eggs all over the back of us, you know. And Grandma had a 1-bedroom house. How do you take that many people and deal with baths and stuff? And Mom said, "Oh, we'll get you cleaned up." And she did. She took me in the bedroom, and you know, we only packed enough clothes for one night, and that was a treat to get to go to Grandpa and Grandma's to stay overnight. Make homemade ice cream, you know. Grandma made every kind of pickle you could think of, and made her own carrots, her own potatoes, canned them all and everything. So, I mean, it was just a really good time, good eating, you know. So I have really good memories of Grandpa and Grandma's house and that, and Mom and Dad starting out. And it's funny with the farm now, they bought that from Randy Ulmer's uncle. And so that ties together. Cindy married Randy Ulmer.
Right.
You know, I don't know much more about that situation than it was. But yeah, I remember when your daddy joined the service, and oh my gosh, it was awful. You know, I was so close to him, and it was so lonesome without him. And then when Gordon stayed home and he helped farm, and one day he come home and Mom and Dad had put him on the checkbook, and he came home and he had spent all the money for the next year's crop and paid for an Oldsmobile car, a brand new one. I can remember how sick Mom and Dad were.
It's 5:21. Did you get your supper?
No, they'll come now for me here
Okay.
pretty soon. Yeah, they'll come here
I
pretty
want to
soon.
make sure I didn't.
Oh no, you're not
stop
interrupting.
everything you're doing.
I guess that's all that I know, Rick.
Christine said text when you're on your way over.
What is that?
Did you want to go over and get that done?
Yeah, I suppose.
We gotta drive over to Christine's,
Okay,
and we brought some,
okay.
Yes, for-
Yeah, that's neat. They're in Omaha.
Yeah.
So you
Rustin.
guys are driving in Omaha now?
Yeah.
Yeah?
we have to.
Yep.
I don't like it.
No, I don't like it.
What do you do, just take Broadway down?
Cross the bridge.
Or
Yeah.
can you get off to get on West I-80 somewhere along the way? That's the easiest route, isn't it?
If you go down south to, what is it, 24th Street or 9th Street, you can get on the interstate and go take the south line.
9th Avenue?
Yeah, 9th Avenue.
Okay. I used to work down that area.
I drive all over Omaha. It doesn't worry me a bit now.
Yeah.
But it took me a while to learn
I
that.
don't like it.
I don't either. And it's gotten worse. I got to tell you, the
Yeah,
traffic's gotten
yeah.
worse. And this thing of mad rage, you know, on the roads, we never used to have that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So we try to be out of Omaha by about 6 o'clock at night.
you set your own speed. You don't
That's
let,
right.
You don't, when people cut in front of you and they hit
You
the
don't
brakes
get
or something, you
passed.
don't let it bother you.
Nope, nope. Terry said, Mom, say a prayer for him. Say a prayer for him. And one time I heard her say, Mom would be a good Christian if she didn't drive. Thanks, Terry.
Well, you know, that's probably a downfall for all of us.
Yeah, it is.
There are times we get
that
aggravated
irritant. I had a hard time getting used to that, somebody just cutting in on you all of a sudden and everything, but thank the Lord I have not had any accidents with my Molly, my station wagon, and Molly's going to be 16 years old in January. So I wanted to keep it because I can haul my my little yellow cart, little electric cart, and my rollator, and that. And when we went to Branson, the whole thing was packed, you know. Lynn said, "What would we do if we didn't have the station wagon?" I said, "We wouldn't be taking trips to Branson, you know." But
Yeah.
it's been a good car. It's a Ford.
So now they have wheelchairs, electric powered wheelchairs that take up hardly any room.
I know.
And they're lightweight, you can pick them up and
I
set them down.
know.
They have a tiny motor and a tiny battery on the thing.
All you have
and
to
that
do is
they
have the
zip
money.
around. Well, some of them are not that expensive.
Really?
I saw one
Yeah.
that's advertised on Facebook. It's $212 for
Well,
the
that's not
entire chair.
bad.
And
But then you gotta spend the money on batteries.
Yeah.
well, that you
The
probably get
batteries
3
are
years,
$75 a piece.
You probably get 3 years life on a battery. That's not.
I had one of
It's
those,
rechargeable.
it's called a Zipperoo.
Yes.
I got rid of it because it only lasted a couple of months on the batteries.
Oh my.
Well, you have to. The type of those type of batteries had a memory in them. If you'd use it for 15, 20 minutes, and then charge the battery right away, the battery would only remember to last 15 or 20 minutes. You had to wait until you use the battery up and then charge it, and it would go all the way
Yes,
up.
yeah,
So that was your problem, that you were charging it after you had a short use on it.
yeah.
So the battery would only remember. Now there are ways that you could drain it all the way down and then rebuild the memory of the battery up, but
Wow.
I don't remember exactly the way to
That
do that.
is, yeah. They're
Anyway,
handy.
I just ride my 3-wheel bike now.
Do you? That's
That's
good
good.
exercise for you.
Yeah.
For your joints and
Yeah,
everything.
when I had this knee done,
Yeah.
it was just like new,
Oh.
right now.
Oh wow.
So let's go back to you. How was life when you moved to Dow City?
When I moved to Dow City, we went to country school. That's when your daddy built that sleigh, and it was probably the size of half of
I'm talking about you and Rod. When
Oh,
moved
you and
to Dow.
Rod, okay. It was hard at first for $1.25 an hour, and I had Terry, who was a young baby, and we lived in the little house between the railroad track and the highway. There, right on the corner.
Mhm.
And you know, it was easy to clean. It was a simple life. We were happy, but we were most happy when he got raises and started making an increase in the money, and we didn't have to worry about so much money anymore. We had enough money to buy groceries and gas. It wasn't groceries or gas, you know. But we lived in that little place for, I think Terry was about 2. And then we moved up by the schoolhouse there in Dow City and lived there for a couple of years. And when Tim was born then, we moved from Dow City out to the acreage at Dunlap.
Mm-hmm.
And we paid $6,800 for that whole acreage. And it really needed a lot of care when we took it. Oh my gosh, the guy in there had polio and was in a wheelchair, so there was no care whatsoever. He had chickens in the basement and pigs in the basement.
Oh,
Yeah, it was a mess. His name was Cougar, and so we took it from there till every year we done a new room. We'd redo it all and everything, and it eventually made a nice home, you know. But the kids graduated from high school there, and then when Tim went to go into Iowa Western to become a surgery tech, I decided I needed to go to work too, and to help more on the money, and because boy did college go up between those years. And so that's when I started being a nanny, and I got the job just by talking to my friend in Council Bluffs here. I told her I'm looking for a job. Rod had already accepted the job there at Grace University, and he loved it there. And so she said, why don't you think about being a nanny? And I said, oh yeah, move to England, right? I thought she was joking. She said, no, I'm very serious. She said, I'll call you back in 15 minutes. So in 15 minutes, the phone rang, and Geneva was on the phone, my friend, and she said, Beverly, I'm talking to Janet Reeby. She's looking for a nanny. And I thought, oh, Geneva, I wasn't quite, getting this hurried. But I talked to Janet and told her my experience with children, working with kids and everything. And she said, would you be able to start work tomorrow? Oh, my. I didn't even know how to drive in Omaha. She said, I will furnish you a car to drive. And so I had to tell her, I don't know how to drive in Omaha even. Don't worry about that, she said. You sound like you're a good worker. You know how to clean house. You know how to bake and cook. And you know how to watch my little Shannon. So that's what I'm depending on. And I went the next morning and started my job with them. It was a whole new area of my life. Every day we took her car out and drove in Omaha. She'd tell me where to go. And that was just the Lord's way of teaching me how to get around Omaha. I was so amazed at that. I was with them for about 6 years, and she died of MS. So at that time, I thought, well, I like this nanny business. I think I'll pursue it again. And I found a nanny job with a couple, and we still lived in Dunlap. And I would drive down every morning.
Do you mind if I turn the lights on?
Yeah, that's fine. Yes. And so I was with them for 6 years, and then I found a job with the Zidans, Sandy and Brian. It's right here, honey, right here on the inside wall here.
On the inside wall.
And wow,
Wow.
that's light, isn't it?
Light.
Right.
And God said it was good.
Yeah. And so I was with the Zidans, and they bought another couple, and they had a little 9-month-old baby girl, Carol Lee, and they were from Vietnam. They had just gotten here from Vietnam. And I just dearly loved. She was so afraid of me. She just shook when her mama left. She was 9 months old. And when I walked, she'd walk every place and watch me. And pretty soon, her mother said, she won't take any
for
bottles.
Beverly Folkers?
Oh, who is that?
Hello.
Hi.
Oh, that's Jada. I can hear her voice.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I'll step out.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, how are you,
How you doing?
girl?
We probably
This is
should.
Lynn's
Yeah, we
sister.
gotta get her up.
Lynn's sister, Jana, the youngest one.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to crash the conversation. Also, I'll wait out there.
Oh, okay,
Well,
honey.
we
Sorry.
need to leave anyway,
Oh,
'cause we told
oh.
Christine we'd be there.
Well, and she'll be looking forward to that too. Thanks for coming down and taking that time, and it's so good to see you guys, you
Good
know.
to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to give you a
I
hug.
wanted to see you before you left.
I don't want to hurt your.
I love you.
I don't want to hurt your knee. Be careful.
My knees are good.
Oh, okay.
I don't know
you're
what's
back.
wrong with my foot lately.
Oh. Oh.
I had x-rays and they found nothing.
That's old Arthur sticking around.
Yeah.
Next morning he might be gone for good.
That stupid Arthur's been beating me up all over the place.
I know. Seems like we get to a certain age and they do. You know?
Yeah.
But anyway, I was a nanny for 34 years.
Can I use your bathroom?
Oh,
quick?
sure, honey. 25 years for one family. And I thought, how amazing, Rick. You came the day before yesterday. You were the first newborn baby I took care of. And you were 2 days old when Mom and Dad brought you home from the hospital. And your mom had a kidney problem. And she couldn't get...
That's where I got it from.
That's where you got it from. She did have trouble with her kidneys a lot. And so she called me and see if I could come over and work during the summertime. And your dad was out in the farm fields. And she went. I said, get out of here and go shopping. You sure with a 2-day-old baby? I said, I'm sure. I can take care of him. You had a formula, bottle. I knew what to do. I said, I can bathe him. I can do everything, you know. So she took off with your Aunt Sina. And they had a good time, but she went to the doctor and got some medicine. And so I was there maybe for 3 or 4 days at a time. And so each time that she, up on the hill in Dow City when you lived up there, she had another bout with her kidneys. Almost ended up at the hospital at that time. But I was always able, they just called me and Dad would take me up there and I was able to take care of you and little Paula and fix the meals, you know, and stuff. So, you know what? The Lord was preparing me for nanny service already then. And so I worked 34 years as a nanny after Tim and Terry were out of the home and graduated and everything. And I loved every minute of it. I dearly loved. So I saw you, my first, on Thursday. This morning, Emily flew in from Colorado, and she was my last one that I nannied. And she's working on her master's degree now. Gonna do it all in 1 year. She's very aggressive in her studies, and that. But she was the hardest baby of all of them to take care of. But God was good. We got through it, and I said she was a pill. And her daddy this morning said she still is, Bev. Nothing's changed. So.
Well, you said yesterday I was a really fussy baby.
You were a fussy baby. Yes, you had what they call colic, and you did not like to be rolled on your back at all. So I found that little Paula was 18 months old, you know, or no, she was not even 18 months. She was a baby. She's 11 and a half months older than you?
Yeah. My birthday's April 28th and
Yes.
yours is May 1st, so we're only 3 days apart.
And you would cry.
1 year and 3 days.
But if I rolled you over on your tummy on my knees and put a blanket down and put you on top of the blanket and just barely bounce, you'd sleep like a log. But once you'd start burping and get that burp out of there, you were fine. But otherwise, you were colicky, you know. And that doesn't surprise me because you might have had that protein intolerance too. Grandpa and Grandma Gilbert had it in their family. Grandpa and Grandma Lorette had it in their family. So, yeah. So, it's been an interesting life.
So Paula was an easy baby.
She was an easy baby, yeah. Yeah. When Rod and I got married, with everybody, you know how they have a car chase, just married and all this and that. And your daddy said, Bev, you've got to stop. She's bawling her eyes out. Her baby's gone. And it was Paula. They taking my baby. He didn't like it. You know, Rod was taking me off, and so we had to stop and say goodbye to Paula and get her calmed down and everything. That she didn't like it.
I always loved my baby.
I know. I did get attached to her really close when she was a teeny tiny little thing. I braided her hair, I put them in pigtails, I made her some fancy pinafores sewing, you know, and little dresses, and she was like a little doll, you know, and fixing her hair all different and everything. I loved that. So that was my first experiences as nannies with you guys.
Wow.
Yeah.
from my experience with her, she's always a tattletale. No matter what I
Yeah.
did, she told them.
Yeah.
She was always a big protector of you, Rick. When you started walking.
I prefer to say tattletale.
Yeah.
She didn't want to
That
see
sibling
you around
rivalry,
all
huh?
alone.
I guess so.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
You were naughty one time and I went ahead and spanked you.
I don't know
And
where that.
so I got in trouble.
For spanking.
Yeah.
Oh. You know, I wasn't around David as much when he was little. I was around Bobby more when he was so little. But I never got to know David very much as a young kid. You know, I remember just shortly before he passed away, he had a red Innova,
Duster.
A duster.
a Duster. That's
Plymouth
right.
Duster.
Something went wrong. Your mom and dad went someplace to Minnesota, and David and Bobby were going to stay with me and Rod, and we were doing just fine. David come home from school and he said, "My car's got a problem." He said, "You got to have it towed in and have it fixed." Well, you know, I talked with your mom and dad. We had everything covered, but I didn't know what to do with the car that broke down, you know. So I said, "Well, David, I've got to wait, honey, until I talk to your mom and dad. I need a car for school." And I said, "Well, you know what? I'll run you into school. You won't have a problem. I'll take you into school and bring you home." And it was funny because he really got aggravated at me because I just didn't get right at it and get it fixed.
Yeah.
And when I talked to Tommy said, "No, Cripes," says, "I don't want you putting out." He said, "This sounds like a lot of money." I said, "Well, they told him $300. He said, "Nope, tell him it's going to wait till Dad gets home." And David was so mad at me. I felt bad about that because it wasn't all that later on that he was killed. You know, it was a sad time in our family. And but, you know, one day we're going to see him in heaven.
Yeah.
You know, and just like Julie. Is it your sister
Yeah.
Julie? Same thing. Well, she was a friend of Terry's, you know, and Terry really took that hard when Julie and those kids died, you know. And I think that left a mark on Dunlap for a long time.
Mhm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
it was a serious, serious thing, but
Yeah.
4 lives were taken that way.
that's right, that's right.
Yeah. We better keep
Yeah.
going.
Well, thank you guys for coming, and I've enjoyed having stopping by. Have I finished that video then, or Rick?
That's pretty good.
Pretty good. I can't think of anything else.
Last thing I want you to tell is something you want to tell the future generations.
You're right.
Something that I
Is
want
it?
to help.
Much of a problem to get to 9th Avenue, you just go south or?
Yeah, go to 35th and turn down, and then turn right on 9th Avenue.
Okay. Thank you.
Something I would really like to.
I wanna,
Okay.
You'll
Oh,
send me this
thank
other
you.
video too then.
Oh, thank
I'll
you,
put it
Deb.
on
I love you
Facebook and I'll
guys.
send you
Thank
the
you for
link.
praying for me.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
So
Thank
I'm
you
not
for
gonna make it
praying for
public,
me.
so only people that have a
Are
link
you
can see
driving?
this. Am I driving?
Yeah.
Of course I'm driving.
Wow.
Well,
Oh,
that's what I
yeah.
get here.
Are you
You
supposed to drive,
graduated
Rick?
to driving.
Well, I was only not supposed to drive for 4 weeks,
Okay.
and so I started driving about 3
Isn't he a
weeks.
picture of health
Ah,
of
he
God's?
yes, he is.
Oh, God's
I think he
goodness.
looks
I
well.
think so.
I have a lacking energy level, but then,
I do too sometimes.
yeah,
Honey, I do too.
I haven't had my afternoon nap today. and-
Oh, I thought you looked like you were maybe a little sleepy.
Yeah, so,
Yo.
Yeah.
but I'll
Well,
make it till the night.
Are
After
you
you're
eating
totally-
right, Rick?
Yeah, it's, I
After
really
you're
have to,
totally healed up, maybe you'll.
my diabetes is just reared its
Ugly head.
ugly head at me. It's just,
Oh.
so I have to eat low carb.
Yeah.
It's
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of difficult because you feel like you don't have any energy if you don't have any carbs.
Yeah, carbs is what gives
Yeah.
your energy. That's
And,
right.
so
Wow.
that's what I have to do, and I'm trying to limit myself to under 30 carbs for every meal.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's hard.
And
Well,
it's easy at breakfast time.
yes.
Eggs and bacon and
Yeah.
ham and maybe one slice of cheese or something. I usually make myself a nice omelet.
Yes.
And one of the other things that I found out about is they've been talking about high blood pressure and how you have to limit your salt intake.
Yeah.
Yes.
Limiting your salt intake affects your insulin intake.
Oh.
If you cut yourself back on salt, then you can't absorb the insulin that's in your system,
Oh.
so you can become insulin intolerant or
Wow.
insulin
See,
resistant.
and you had sugar diabetes on Grandma May's side, great
Yeah,
Grandma Gilbert.
both sides.
Both sides, yeah. Grandma Rosie had diabetes. Your daddy had diabetes.
I think that they're finding out though that it has a lot more to do with the diet
Yes.
than it does with genetics.
Tim had just been diagnosed with diabetes too.
That's too bad.
So, I mean, it just travels, keeps on going, you know.
One
Like
thing I gotta say
diarrhea.
to them is,
Yeah, just like diarrhea.
don't
Yeah.
try to control your blood sugar with insulin. Try to do it by your diet.
Diet,
Yep.
yeah,
I
that's
mean,
what I
you have
been
to have the
doing.
insulin to bring it down to
Yep,
so
Yeah.
you're to live, but
yep, that's
Get
why
rid
I
of those
don't wanna be
carbs.
on
Yeah.
insulin
don't worry
yet.
about salt because you become insulin resistant.
Yeah,
And then there are good fruits and bad fruits. Like
Yeah.
apples are good fruits.
yeah,
Get
Strawberries are
pepper
great
steins.
because there's only one carb per strawberry.
but yeah,
They're so
that's
sweet
so
and
neat.
wonderful. They fulfill all my needs for
Neat.
something sweet.
Yes,
But there's only one carb per
How
strawberry.
about kiwis? Like
Kiwis are great too.
good, they're good.
Yeah.
Watermelon, not so good.
Yep.
Wow.
Oh no, why not?
Yeah, wow. Well,
What's the
you
matter
know
with
what?
watermelon?
Because it
I
has
will
a
be praying
glycemic
for you.
value. It causes your blood sugar to jump right
Wait,
away.
Really?
yeah,
And whereas it takes a
Yeah.
little while. It's the same
Wow.
thing with
Love my Aunt Debbie.
okay.
potatoes
Aw,
and
I love
bread
you,
Love
Paula.
you.
and
You
rice
guys be safe
and
today.
mustard
Okay.
and
Oh,
any,
all
Alright.
the
any
things
cereals.
Love you, honey.
that cause your blood sugar to just jump like crazy.
Yeah. Thank you
There's
guys for
nothing
traveling
fair
over.
about that, is there, Rick?
No, it isn't. But then life's a struggle.
Life's a struggle, that's
Yeah.
right.
If you wanna live a good life, you
Yeah, that's
gotta-
right.
You gotta do
The
it
God's
right.
in charge of
gotta
it,
do
you
it
know.
according to the rules.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll see ya.
All right, bye-bye. Be safe, guys.
Okay.
Let's see, something that I want my future generations to know. My daddy ran away from home when he was 14 because Grandpa and Grandma were so strict, and Christians only wore white and black, and they had such legalistic ideas. So when he married Mama, he made her promise that if there's any children, that they would never talk about God to any of the children. We always had a Bible up on the shelf in the closet. One day I took it down, I thought, I had my girlfriend at school talking about her family had a Bible. Wonder what's in that book. I took it down, was reading it, and Mom came in the room and she said, you put that right back up on that shelf. And so I did. I said, Mom, how come I can't read that? You just never mind, she'd say. She was very stern about that. So the only lesson that I really learned about God was the one when she got mad at the doctor at the hospital and said, you don't tell her she'll walk again, she'll never walk again. And my mom, who was a little larger than my size, walked up to the doctor and put her finger to his nose, and she said, you forget one thing, that when the doctor says no, God doesn't say no. That was probably the best spiritual lesson that I learned.
Another thing that you had told me in the past, that she'd go up to feed the chickens in the morning,
That's right.
and that's where she'd do her praying.
That do she'd do her praying. Or she'd go sit down by the lilac tree and she'd go do her praying. And Daddy never mentioned God to us at all. So Daddy forgot, you know, how God intervened with a 13-year-old girl who was severely disabled and a 19-year-old boy severely disabled. Don't you think he would have thought about that many times? I never heard him ever say. But my dad
He went
kept
through
that up.
big conversion towards the end of his life.
Yes, he did.
He would go to church every Sunday.
Oh, that's right. After Mama passed away, first David passed away, and then Mama passed away in September of 75, and David passed away in May of 76, I
Right.
think. And Daddy ended up in the hospital with bleeding ulcers from taking aspirin for his arthritis so bad. And it was time for me to bring him home from the hospital. He was over in Ottawa Hospital. And so I went over and brought him home from the hospital and brought him to the house. And I said, Daddy, I said, this is what we're going to do. You're going to start living with us now because I need to do some cooking for you. I need to watch your diet. You need to be with us, you know, and that. And so he started to cry, and he said he was just so lonesome without Grandma Rosie. And I said, Daddy, here's the other thing. You need to get involved with the men down at church. And then he said, Beverly, don't talk to me about religion. And I looked at him and I said, Daddy, I hate religion. I'm not talking about religion. And he just looked like I smacked him. I said, you know, what I'm talking about is not religion. And my purse was sitting there where I had just said it, and I pulled out a dollar bill. And I said, take it, Daddy. And he stared at it. He wouldn't take it. I said, take it, Daddy. And he still stared at it. And pretty soon, well, I will, he said. He reached over and took it. I said, all of these years, that's what God's been trying to do. Give you the gift of his son, Jesus Christ. But you've got it all tied up in religion. What I'm talking about is a relationship with the Lord Jesus himself. And he started to weep and cry. He said, what do I have to do? And I said, you need to bow your head and repeat after me. And we repeated the salvation prayer and asked Jesus to come into his heart. 67 years old. From that point on till he died, yeah, I think it was at the church every time that it opened. He had maybe went down to help missionaries in Arkansas and that. And so I talked with him and said, Daddy, our whole family needed Christ so much in our lives, but you wouldn't permit it. And I'm really sad about that, because I said, in the generations to come, I hope that each one of us realize that we need that relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ. And that's our ticket to heaven, asking him to forgive us and to serve him and to live our life for him. And so I guess that's my prayer, that all those in our family at some point come to know Jesus as their Lord and Savior, and be ready for heaven. Heaven is a prepared place for a prepared people.
One of the last times I saw Grandpa was, I came to the hospital here after he was diagnosed with cancer really bad. And I came to see him, and he just woke up and he couldn't see very well. And he looked up at me and says, Pastor. And I said, no, it's your grandson, Rick. He says, I've always thought you were a pastor.
Isn't that amazing?
And, that's one of the kindest compliments
You ever had?
I've never received a calling to do that, but I've also been very close with the Lord my entire life.
That's right.
And I've shared my belief with other people
That's
over
right.
and over and over.
Me too.
And I still do, as being a member of the Christian Motorcycle Association.
That's right. I was so proud to see that Rick on there.
And yeah, I was happy to see that change in his life.
Oh yes, yeah. What a difference it made. And it was all because, why didn't I sit down with him years before? Because I'd hear him use Jesus' name out at the welding house, and I'd say, Daddy, please don't use my Lord's name. Beverly, get to the house, you know. And so I was kind of a lone ranger in my family as a Christian for a long time. And it was funny because if they planned a Sunday dinner or something, well, you know, we have to wait for Bev and Rod till after church is over. Well, it's Beverly's way or the highway. And I thought, I'm not going to listen to those words, Lord. I know this is the right way.
Right.
And so, you know, it did not really start to take until Grandpa received the Lord, and then your brother Tom, or my brother Tom, and then, and you were already pretty much into that, Rick, and Paula was as well. Let's see, who was it after? It was, let's see, Rick, and then, not Bobby. Bobby accepted Christ at a Bible camp, you know, with Tim up to the, what was the name of that Bible camp? Raccoon Bible Camp.
Mm-hmm.
And then, not Cindy, Betty's family doesn't have any Christians in it yet, Rick, so if you
Uh-huh.
get a chance, witness to them every pride that you can. Betty Jane accepted the Lord, but it was so many years after the kids had been treated badly that none of them really went for that. I think that's what turned it all off, but we're fortunate to have as many Christians in our family as we do.
Mm-hmm.
Melissa received the Lord, you know, and she shared with me how she came to faith. I don't know about Jenny. I never have had that conversation
She
with Jenny.
prays a lot, but she's attended church with us, and she hasn't developed a personal relationship
But yet.
Not that I can see.
Yes, okay.
And that's something I continue to work on.
Yes,
But
yeah,
I'm happy that she's praying,
that's right, right.
and
It might be difficult because of her husband, you know. He's probably Spanish, is he?
well, yes, he's got a Spanish background, but he was raised Catholic,
Okay.
and he
Those are
sees it
hard.
a conflict to go to church because he, you know, Jenny doesn't want to go to Catholic church.
Yep,
And I'm not so sure he wants to go back to church either.
that's right.
But
You know, they've had you and Annette as parents, and that's the one good thing they've had to follow.
yeah.
And that, but you know, that would be my prayer for down through the ages, is that in our family that we come to acknowledge that our need for a Savior and accept Christ as a Savior and ask Him to forgive our sins and help us to live this life. Jeremiah 139 says that He knows the day of our birth, He knows the day of our death, He's ordained every day in between, and organized every day in between. How can we not know who God is?
Right. Actually, I was just listening to the Bot Radio.
Bot radio, yeah,
And he had a sermon
on that.
about that.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
I listen to Bot Radio, I listen to BBN, 88.9 FM. I miss them so bad since I've been in the hospital because I haven't had them. But, you know, having that radio station on when Jenny and Louis, is it Louis? Or how do you say his name?
Louis Palau, you talking
Louis,
about?
no, your son-in-law, Louis, Jenny's husband.
Louis, yeah.
Having that on in the background every time they come and stuff, you will be amazed what happens. Pretty soon he'll start asking you questions, you know, and stuff. And I know even with Nanny and little kids would ask me questions. Maybe, how can I have a good and godly day today? You know, and he was only 4 years old. So I immediately, there was a little city park there, I pulled over to the park, and we talked about it, how he could have a good and godly day. 4 years old, that was little Matthew Nielsen. He still remembers that today, you know. So it's really a neat time, I think, with the world situation like it is, to be able to proclaim, you know, guys, there's only one way.
Yeah.
There's only, the answer is Jesus, you know, with it. But when I see how God has worked in your life, Rick, that is a point of happiness for me, to see how He can work in your life, you know, and how He's worked in my own life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think we better stop it.
You better stop it. Okay.
6 o'clock.
Oh.